Hi, this is Kowareta or Arman, and this is our 2023 Pride panel. And we have some members here from OCM, you said?
oSTEM.
oSTEM. We're here to discuss about Pride and the LGBTQIA plus communities and how is that represented through esports and gaming overall. I have one of the members here. You'd like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Sam. I use he, they pronouns. I'm the president of oSTEM. I'm a bio major. Um, yeah.
Awesome, Sam. And we have
Maddie.
Maddie.
Hi, my name's Maddie. I use any and all pronouns, and I am a health sciences major going into my third year here at UCF.
Great. And I guess I forgot to mention too, I go by he, him pronouns, and I am a game design major here on campus.
Cool.
So I guess I'll start off by saying that. All right, so this is like I don't know what to say. It's like superficial, but I guess as like a recent discovery, I would say that I identify as asexual, but it's been in the spectrum for a little couple of years now. I started like figuring this out during college. I just whenever I would like have some sort of attraction, sort of like one of my best friends, I would just not. Some people be like, oh, how you feel about them in this certain aspect. I just didn't see it that way, and I just kind of I don't really know how to describe it since I'm like really really new to it, and this is like really kind of I don't know how to say if it's embarrassing or not, but
You're good.
I don't know. I don't think not a lot of people know. I'm like really private about it, but like I guess because this is like on the first official, I would say this is like my first official coming out of it. I'm getting like really red about this, but like I've always seen like whenever I like, have like an attraction or something, I've always seen them a different way, and everyone's kind of like made fun of me for it. But it was just more of like I like what I like sort of thing, and I don't want to like I'd rather just enjoy the time with them. I like spending time with them, emotionally and stuff like that. If we go to like theme parks and stuff like that, I'd rather just have that instead of like, some sort of like intimate relationship. And that's totally cool with me. And if they're not okay with that, I mean, I guess that's okay too. But I would like, I'm kind of like my own person. I like what I like. And yeah, I guess, this is like how I really feel about it. And I'm really happy about it. It's kind of like, it's been like a struggle with it, like during high school and stuff like that. I really didn't know how to feel. But during college, being more independent, especially from out of state, I didn't really like, I grew up in like a very different environment where it's like it really wasn't like not seen as like bad or taboo, but it just really wasn't common. So I felt like I was like more like one of a million. If I were to come up back then, it would be like I'd kind of be the I don't want to feel like a zoo animal, essentially, where people were like looking at me a little differently. But now in college, where I feel a lot more comfortable, where it's like I'm a lot more independent and I'm a lot more happy with like finding out what I truly like and stuff like that. I definitely think it's a right place, a right stepping stone into finding my true happiness and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess mom and dad, if you're seeing this, I'm Ace. So yeah, and I guess like I get a little more inspiration from my sister, who recently came out as bisexual last year, and it's just she's younger than me, and she's kind of been like an inspiration for like me having some sort of like, okay, maybe like this is time to tell my parents about this. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. I really can't get any more like too much into detail because I'm like super new. This is like my first official time talking about it, and like maybe only like a couple of people know as of like 2 weeks ago. So yeah, how about you, Sam?
So I really started questioning my identity in like sixth grade. Because for me, it was like really when like gender norms started to be a big thing in like school and just around how I interacted with people. I was like, wait, this doesn't feel right. When like people were like, oh, you need to wear a dress, you need to wear heels, da 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 da, and I was just like, I don't like this. And like it wasn't something that was really talked about, wasn't something that was really prevalent or at all existent where I was growing up. And it was like through YouTube that I found a couple of like trans YouTubers that like kind of talked about how they felt and how, their experience and da. And I was like, wait, so I'm not the only person that feels like this. Like it's not just me that like feels this way. And that was kind of when I like consolidated that like, yeah, I'm trans. Like that's that. And I didn't come out until to my parents until like my freshman year of high school. And like it's been rocky ever since I did, like just because it's a hard thing sometimes for parents to be able to deal with. But my senior year, I was able to start testosterone. Just this past December, I got top surgery, and it's just kind of been an adventure from then. Like I kind of went on I joke, I went from the she, her to he, him to he, they pipeline.
Oh yeah.
Just in the like, I stopped caring about what other people thought of me and just dressed for myself, just presented for myself. Like, because in high school, like I tried to do the very like cis het dress. Like I was in nothing but baggy t-shirts and jeans every day. Like, and like I looked like a dude, but I did not like feel fully like I was dressing for myself. And so as I got more into like college, I was really able to start expressing myself more and dressing how I wanted to. And that like made a really big difference just for how I viewed myself and my confidence. And as for sexuality, I like always kind of bounced around. Like I know I lean towards liking men, but I was like, I just kind of, sometimes I don't like people at all. Or sometimes I'm just like, eh. So I, like, for a long time just said I was queer because I didn't really want to give a label and then not identify, not, like, follow the terms of that label and have people, like, doubt me. But just, like, not super recent, but as of recent, like, I've started using ace more in both the, like, asexual, aromantic kind of way. Because, like, the one way I, like, voice it to other people who are like, well, what do you mean? Like, how do you know? It's like, I'm like, I look at a pretty person and a pretty sunset the same way.
You get it. You get
Like,
it. That's how I
like,
feel the
it's
same
like,
way.
they're like people are like, oh wow, that dude's really hot. Like, damn. And I'm just like, I mean, he's very attractive, but like I'm looking at him the same way I would look at the sunset and be like, wow, this guy looks really pretty tonight.
Yeah.
I'm like, he looks really pretty. Like, and that's it. Like, that's the way I voice it, and like I think that's the way that people have understood it the most when I'm trying to explain it. But at the end of the day, like, it's how I feel, and like I don't really need to explain that to other people. And like, you voice as much as you're comfortable with, and yeah, that's kind of been my adventure with all of that.
That's great. I'm glad I can be able to like relate. You know, you brought like a better understanding of like how I feel about it, even because I didn't even see it as like I would see someone be like, oh, they're very attractive, and then kind of like move on with my day. Sorry about that. But to compare it to like a pretty sunset, yeah, that's a great comparison. I would definitely start, if people need a more explanation, like, hey, what does that even mean? I could definitely explain it in that context. I think it would definitely shed some light onto that. And you, Maddie?
Oh boy. Where did you start? You started with, oh boy. So I use any and all pronouns, and it's very new to me, but it feels right. You know what I mean? And I've been using these pronouns for probably about 6 months to a year now. And so I use them in professional settings, but I still feel like nervous telling, like, I don't know, like, when you're like in an application or something. I just feel like there's not a lot of understanding surrounding it. But my entire life, like as young as I can remember, I never resonated with a specific gender. Like I felt like genders were just, I don't know, there's not a binary to me. It just never really made sense. Like, why do I have to be a girl? Why do I have to be a guy? So that never really made sense. So that's why I feel the most comfortable using any and all pronouns, because, I may present a certain way to you, but in my heart of hearts, I don't feel like I resonate with any specific gender. And so if I have to use pronouns, sure, I will, and I'll use all of them. And then as for my sexuality, I have been pansexual for, I came out right before college, before leaving for college. I told my mother because she kept pestering me. She was like, I need to know. And finally I was like, forget it, I'm leaving for college in 2 weeks, so it won't have any repercussions really. So I was like, yeah, I'm pan, I like whatever. And so with like being pansexual, sometimes people are confused between the difference between bisexuality. And I kind of see it like gender, again, it kind of goes in hand with my gender, but a gender doesn't really apply to me. And I don't feel like it applies to other people either. And that's why like I don't like girls and boys, I like people, I don't like gender, I like human beings for who they are, regardless of, what anything or how they identify. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. But yeah, I've always, my entire life felt this way. Like, I don't know, it's just been a journey of finding labels and finding, how to tell my family. But yeah, I've been out and very happy for a good while now.
Great to hear. I'm very happy to hear about both of your stories. It makes me a little feel more comfortable with my own skin, being super new to figuring out who I am as a person. I definitely feel some sort of like comfort about this. Now, with your organization, can you tell us a little bit about oSTEM and what would you guys do on campus?
Yeah. I'll take this.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so oSTEM is, it stands for Out in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And basically it focuses on people who identify as part of the LGBTQIA community within STEM, just because for a long time it was a very dominated field in the very like cis-het sort of dominated way. Like you don't see as much queer representation in the STEM community because it's like you have engineering, which is a very heavily male-dominated field, and like for a queer person, sometimes like walking into an engineering class can be very nerve-wracking. Like I know I started during COVID, but like I was looking at the Zooms for like some of my intro-level engineering classes when I was an engineering major, and like for the most part, it was just like white men and like men, and like I was like, this is kind of scary. Like if I was walking into this class in person, I would be a little intimidated. And like I've talked to people who've like had experience where they're like doing group projects and they like they're working with a group of guys and they just get ignored because they're like not seen to have the same knowledge or like enough knowledge just because of their identity. And so what oSTEM focuses on is kind of showing that there are other people in the field, like adding that representation, like how you were saying when like I shared my story and how I felt like it helped you feel more comfortable. That is the entire goal of it. It's to like help people be more comfortable in their field so that they can do what they want to do and pursue what they want to do and not feel like they're this like alien that's sticking out like within the field, and like showing them there are other people that identify the way you do, that are like similar to you, have been through the same thing as you. And so on campus, what we try to do is we try and do one social event and one professional event a month. And so we did like last year, we did a resume building workshop, we did headshots, and then like we did like a Halloween party and like different social events. And we try to pair with other clubs around campus to just kind of expand our reach and everything. But yeah, that's kind of like what we focus on and all of that.
Seems like you guys do a lot, for the STEM majors. You said this is just STEM majors, or?
Be anyone, like it focuses on people in STEM, but we tell like anyone, like you don't have to be gay, you don't have to be in STEM, like anyone can join our club. This is just it, we focus on sharing the knowledge of people. Like we have like at meetings sometimes we'll do PowerPoints of different people who are like high level people in the STEM fields that are also queer, like just to be like, you might not know this about this person, here's everything they did because that's what matters, but also they identify as this. So like anyone can really do what they want, and that's kind of how we do it. But like literally anyone can be part of the club. We're not like, oh, you're not a STEM major, oh, you're not some form of queer, get out. Like, no.
Got it. Maddie, do you have anything to add to that?
I just love how we have social aspects. We hold them in what room?
We try to use Pride Commons as much as possible.
Yeah, I love that we use Pride Commons too because, there's a lot of students who just happen to be walking by through Feral Commons and peek their head in, and then they find this queer community where, it might be their first time really connecting with queer people, and so it's great to, be there, have a face for the club, and then have like a club that students can fall back on when they feel, kind of like you said, alienated.
That's great. That's great. Now, how have you felt welcomed into the gaming scene for someone who is part of like the community? I guess I will start. I mean, I've always just been a lot of my friends are part of this community, and just I feel like how do I put this in the way where it's like I don't know how do I describe this? I'm not a really good person to talk about this with, but I guess I've never had an issue with playing as someone part of the community because everyone's there for the game. So like when you're there like playing the game, that's like more of like a second thought, and people just appreciate you more for your skill. Like it doesn't matter if you identify as something or your sexuality is something else, as long as you're having fun with the game, that shouldn't reflect your play style. Like people like tend to say that, like in my experience, like I've seen some hurtful comments like, oh, but you play this game because you're part of this or something like that, and like it doesn't really matter. It's like as long as you're enjoying the game, which is why like I feel like the gaming scene has brought some sort of like comfort for me, because no one really like is bashing you for it. They'd rather just focus on you enjoying yourself in the game.
Listen, if I want to be a competitive Minecraft player, I'll be a competitive
Exactly.
Minecraft player.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like the way that you put that in the sense that, like, I'm coming here to play a game. You know, I'm here for a reason, and we don't have to talk about anything outside of the game. You know, how my day was, shitty, good, it doesn't matter. You know, I'm just here to, you know, kill some people on games.
Exactly. Like I don't know if like for like other scenes, maybe like sports, it could be a different conversation. I know the sports scene is, you know, we see with recent with these like with the Olympic sports, you see, you know, with the trans athletes and stuff like that. Some people are not as accepting, you know, when it comes to a situation like that. But at least with gaming, you know, everybody is kind of on an even playing field. You know, with the mouse and keyboard, there's nothing like really making people. There's nothing really to like. There's no reason why you should be hateful for someone when you're like playing a game when you're just focusing on the game instead of, you know.
From what I've seen in the gaming community, more you're trashed on is your play style than like your identity. It's like you're gonna get yelled at, but it's just because you're not playing the game good, not because you identify as queer or anything. So
Like, you know, when I was younger, I used to play a lot of Call of Duty, and you tend to see in these Call of Duty lobbies, they're like, oh, you know, you're not, you went like 2-16, that's gay, you know, something like that. And I'm like, what does gay have to do with like me being 2-16? That makes no sense, you know? So, that's how I feel about, you know, the gaming scene. Just, it's just more inclusive of everything because I tend to see that gamers are really dedicated to playing the game. So, like I said before, it's just, and that was more of an afterthought, you know, for someone's identity or sexuality. They're just like, all right, that's great. Now, can we please like capture this point? Like, you know, like.
no, it's like, cool. I'm glad to hear your life story. Can you actually play?
Can you please heal me? That's so good.
Yeah. So, transitioning from the topic of gaming and LGBT, we do see that in most recent games, you know, we have Valorant, Overwatch 2. They're making some of their characters canon, as we could tell. Recently, they just announced for their Overwatch Pride event that Pharah, they have some LGBT icons such as Pharah, Soldier 76, and Tracer. I know in Valorant they have a couple. I believe I don't play a lot of Valorant, but I believe Killjoy is a part of that. And who else? Breach. Breeze. Raze and Killjoy are those two? All right. Yeah, Raze and Killjoy, and yeah. Overwatch, I could talk about this a little more, but like Valorant. On that topic, how do you feel about games like Valorant and Overwatch 2 making characters canon? You know, either by, you know, I tend to see with Blizzard, it's a little bit of a controversial situation because they tend to do these things after some sort of controversial event. Like, you know, we had the issue with the PvE, or like, you know, when they had their whole scandal a couple of years ago inside, you know, the inner circle and the headquarters, and now they're like, oh, you know, as a makeup, we're gonna make somebody, we're gonna make someone canon to, like, you know, kind of throw that representation. Yeah, the representation is great, but we ain't forget, dude. Like.
Yeah.
I mean, so for me, it's like I kind of try to look at them as two different things because I love seeing, like what I said we're all about is like seeing representation in different areas, because it just, when you're trying to like find your identity and you feel like you're so alienated because there's no one else like you around, like having that representation in games, in TV, movies, all of that, like it's awesome to see. Like I loved Tracer as a character when I like even was playing Overwatch 1 because I was like, I like you. And it's like just having these characters, and they don't make it like their entire play style. They don't make it their entire being. They're just like, here's this really cool Soldier 76 character. Oh, also, he likes guys. Like, just that's what it is. And like, granted, when they do it as a distraction because they did something bad, I'm like, listen, thank you. But also really, like, we're not going to forget. But having that representation in the game is what I try to focus on, because I feel like that's what's really important at the end of the day. It's like, it's because you have people who are like younger, like you have like teenagers who are still trying to figure out how they identify, and just having people that are different as like them to be able to look at, like having a varying of races, sexualities, all of that, like so that they can feel truly represented is what I feel like is really important in every element. But like definitely seeing it in these games is really awesome.
Yeah, the way I like to see it too is like, you know, if you were to see it in a movie, if you were to see it in like a movie or TV show, that's already, when you see the character, you know, make their sexuality or their identity canon, when you see, you feel great for them, but you can't like feel it yourself, as in like you can't play that character, you know, in a movie or TV show, but in a video game you can feel some sort of like comfort in playing, like, hey, if you identify as this person, maybe I can play that character in like Overwatch or something like that, you know. I'm waiting for them to, if they would add like a asexual Overwatch character, that'd be great. I know some people have their headcanons out there for certain characters. But yeah, so like in gaming, you can play a character to kind of represent how you feel. You can't really do that in movies and TV shows, you know, because they're already being played by someone else, or it's just a little different, little more complicated than gaming.
Yeah.
You can't immerse yourself into a movie or TV show compared to you in gaming.
Sometimes I get a little confused though with the way that they like bring these characters out canonically, because like when they brought Soldier out, if I'm not mistaken, it was very subtle, like, okay, here's a backstory for Soldier. Oh, he has a husband. Okay, he's gay. That's great. But then, like, when they brought out Lifeweaver, the most recent one, it was like, here's this new character, and I watched his backstory video, and I'm like, okay, cool. He cares about the environment. He's really, like, you know, environmentalist. And then it was also just slapped on headboards. He's pansexual, and I'm like, oh, great. You know, someone's pan. But then I'm also like, why am I finding out about this?
Yeah,
like, I wish it was more subtle and ingrained, because they're people. It's not like, oh, look, he's pan, rather than like, oh, he's pansexual, and also, you know, he's going to be this cool character.
Yeah.
To me, this kind of sounds like a selling point, where it's like, hey, we just added a brand new character. You should play this game.
Yeah.
Why should we play this game? He's pan. Play our game. We just added.
It's like, come on.
You guys wanted something, right?
Please.
Pan. Play our game.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good when it's a main selling point of a character.
Yeah.
No.
Like, you know, with what Lifeweaver, for example, you know, with Tracer and like Soldier 76, for example, they kind of like, some people like kind of like picked out hidden clues and stuff like that. And most recently, same thing with like Baptiste, another character that come out recently.
Like voice lines.
Voice lines,
stuff.
you know, people pick up little things, you know, that make them comfortable, instead of like kind of like straight up outright saying, hey, this person's this.
This character's not even in the game yet, and I'm being told about their sex. I don't know. It's just funny, because I wouldn't go to an interview and be like, hey, my name's Maddie, and I'm pan, and like that doesn't apply to my job. So why does it really apply to this game?
How does this apply to my skills?
Yeah.
Like, that shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, we love seeing the representation, but at the same time, like with Soldier and like Tracer, I remember when Tracer, like, I think it was a comic that like she just like she kissed a girl, and everyone was like, oh my God, Tracer kissed a girl. And it's like, cool. Tracer's still an awesome character. Like, and like, it's like, it wasn't really this crazy forced thing that you're seeing. And like, even like if they had just kept Lifeweaver and Baptiste's just subtle voice lines where they're flirting back and forth instead of like the giant billboards for Lifeweaver, like, I feel like that's what we need in the, like, it's just there. Like, it's not like we have to like throw it out and like make it this giant thing and be the whole identity of the character, but it be a part of them, like as a part of a whole instead of being the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what we were saying earlier about, you know, how have you felt welcome in the gaming scene with who's someone who is part of the community? Again, it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't apply to your skill set. So it shouldn't matter, you know, for these characters, you know, stop making it a selling point if it doesn't reflect like the gameplay. You know? When you're playing these games, you know, you tend to see like, you know, other people play them. What are some like content creators or some communities that you felt that you're most welcome represented in the community for, let's say Overwatch, for example. Overwatch has a pretty, you know, recently when they started doing Pride, you know, they have in Midtown, they have like the flags up. They announced a bunch of characters. You can do different calling cards and stuff like that. I know some other games do that as well. One of my personal examples, I believe, like Undertale. Two of the characters, Alphys and what is that fish's name? The fish.
I know it.
The Battle of the True Hero. What's that person's name?
I can't remember.
I forgot. The fish lady.
From
The fish lady.
Please.
from Undertale.
Undyne. Yes.
Undyne. Thank you.
Oh yeah,
I was like, I know who it is. I can picture it.
Like,
Undertale, that Undyne and like Alphys are like a couple.
Was that the end of the second one or the first one?
I just know they were flirting a lot in the first one.
Oh, okay, because I've always
they were
been
kind of
like
flirting in the first one because Alphys had in, like their notes, like writing about, oh my God, Undyne's this really cool person.
Yeah.
I like them. Should I tell them about how
I remember watching Undertale 1 and I'm like, oh, they are so queer.
Yes.
Yeah. At the end of the first one, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. You know, there's just little games, some indie games like that because they're like indie game. I would say indie games have like really good representation. My favorite game of all time is Celeste. So, you know, Celeste is about a character named Madeline, and I wouldn't want to say it's a selling point. We find out later on that at the end of the game, the reason she's pretty much the whole game is about you climbing a mountain because she's having her own issues and stuff like that. And we find at the end of the game that she's trans, and you know, her like going through adversity, you know, kind of like fighting with herself and like dealing with her inner conscious, battling. It's a really good you know, representation of like that community specifically. So just, you know, we look at Undertale, we look at Celeste and some other indie games that have a lot of representation because they're built like kind of like not by corporations, they're built by people.
Yeah.
So these people tend to put a lot more of like their own ideas and their own soul into the game because they want to see their game flourish instead of a company flourish. You know, they're not making these characters part of their communities for like a cash grab or like, you know, to raise profits. They're doing it because that's their game and they feel that they need to have like genuine representation, you know. So definitely indie games have felt the most welcome. I know with like I haven't played this indie game. I know like Homestuck is another one. I think that's an indie game, or it's like a
It's
comic.
Is it a comic?
I think
it's
so.
a thing.
It's a thing. Right? It's definitely a thing.
It's a world.
It's an experience, is what Homestuck is.
That's definitely just
my take. I'd say like definitely the indie communities because they're built by individuals. That's why like, you know, indie is a thing. They're definitely like very represented in that context.
Yeah, no, I get that. I was gonna say, video game wise, I played Dead by Daylight, and like just recently for Pride Month, they like last year for Pride Month they had like 2 Pride flag like keychains that like you can wear on your character that they released, and then this Pride Month around they released a whole bunch of different flags, like adding to what they're kind of like representing, and like just like, okay, yes, there's the gay flags because everyone does that, but here's these other ones, like they had the asexual one, they had like a demi-gender, like they had so many that you could choose from. I remember because I like went home and like got on the Xbox as soon as I got home, and my little sister was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm getting these flags, leave me alone." But with that, and then outside of video gaming, but also kind of tying to video gaming, I'm part of the cosplay community, and there is so many like queer icons within the cosplay community. And for me, actually, on my journey, like with coming out and coming to my identity, cosplay was a big thing that helped me because before I ever came out as like identifying more masculine, more male, I cosplayed guys. And like I remember my mom asking me like, why are you only cosplaying guys? And I'm sitting there because like it was what made me feel really comfortable. It was like what made me feel myself. But like people in the community are so accepting, and like just it's something where it's like, yeah, all these people are queer, like we might be queer, like yada yada, but we focus more on the cosplay aspects of things. Like it's like, I love this person's cosplay. Oh, they just so happen to be trans too? Awesome. Like it's not like it's their personality, it's just a part of who they are, but it's a really accepting community for everyone. And like it kind of ties into the video games though, like with a lot of video game cosplays. Like I've cosplayed Junkrat, I've cosplayed a lot of Genshin characters.
Clipped.
No, I was laughing at what's happening over there. But like, yeah, like I just cosplaying like, and just it's about the cosplay, or like just recently with the new Legend of Zelda game, like there's so many people. Tears of the Kingdom, like that's been a big one that like I have a friend right now that's working on a Link cosplay, and like that's a character that I've always wanted to cosplay, and it's just like, it's like people like look at characters and are like, oh, that character's so gender, and then you get into the cosplay community and it's like, cool, now I'm gonna be that character. And it's like it's a great community, and I just always feel so accepting, and I've made so many awesome friends throughout that community as well.
That's great. I definitely didn't know that about the cosplay community. That feels great. I mean, like I cosplay sometimes for like a lot of cons for like a lot of anime characters. Tend to do that. Like I've done a lot of Demon Slayer characters and like a couple others, and like I didn't know that. I mean, that's great to hear that. Like, you know, a lot of the communities are part of cosplay and they feel comfortable doing cosplay.
Yeah,
that's awesome to hear. How about you, Maddie? What communities or some games are you thinking?
Oh boy, I don't know. I find. I mean, me personally, I find my communities more in person, just on campus through clubs and stuff. But it is great to feel, you know, backed up when I see like characters consistently coming out, and so it does feel great as like a nice reminder, like there is representation in the media. And so it's never been like, this is my safe place, but it's always been like, this is so nice feeling seen over and over again. You know, even when we see such terrible things in the media, like, you know, erasure and stuff, seeing that companies are still working really hard to make sure that we're not erased.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that topic too. I mean, besides companies, you feel like, you know, there's any content creators out there who are like, you know, representing, showing off, you know, their talents, any special community members who you think that, you know, really make people comfortable in terms of like, you know, with their own skin. I mean, for me, for example, I know a lot of people know Jaden Animations is one for a very, very big asexual icon, and you know, watching her coming out story, I felt a lot of, you know, comfort and a lot of closure. The way that she came out to her mother, it was like very like, oh, you know, maybe one day I could do this to my mom, and I guess now, mom, if you ever see this, but yeah, Jaden Animations is like one person I know is like one big representation of like the ace community overall, and I think she does like a really she kind of like makes a lot of people more comfortable because of her content too. Like I'm a big Pokemon fan, so like pairing like the you know the way she came out with her content, I just kind of felt like more, you know, close to her in terms of like a on like an emotional level. Like, oh my god, you know, this person, you know, there are people like me who are like love Pokemon and are asexual, and you know, she has like 1 million subscribers and stuff like that. So
Not a requirement. You have to be ace to love Pokemon.
yeah.
I guess
Be ace, love Pokemon. That is it. No, I get that. I was gonna say, I know that the Dream SMP was really problematic, but because of that, I found Ranboo, who I really enjoyed watching as a creator because like it's been kind of a growth as a creator. I believe they use they them pronouns now. Just the one thing about Ranboo is that they've just been unapologetically them, and like watching them grow as a person as they've like kind of joined this really big community that like all of this stuff was going on, but like really just focused on playing the game. Like it was like, I'm just here to play Minecraft and have fun. And like then after the SMP ending, just like kind of growing as a person and like becoming more. And then another one for me, like another kind of fandom that I'm part of is the Critical Role fandom. And
What is Critical Role?
It's a D&D podcast.
Okay.
It's the DM is Matt Mercer, who like voice. I was gonna say everyone. Matt does everything. But what is the character in Overwatch? I don't know what his new Cassidy. I couldn't remember what his new name was. Like he's Cassidy's voice actor. Like I've known Matt Mercer. Yeah.
Oh,
I've known Matt Mercer.
Ganondorf in
Yes.
Kingdom.
Really?
He does Ganondorf. He like
everything.
He's everywhere.
I was gonna say, the most of the Critical Role cast like voice acts different video game characters and everything, and like just their. I don't know if any of them are queer or part of the community, but regardless of that, they've always been really accepting, really amazing. And like Matt in particular is someone I like to look up to because he's from Florida originally.
Is he?
And one thing he did a lot, like I went to a lot of like smaller South Florida cons, is he tried to guest at as many of those as he could. Like, and it wasn't a like money grab sort of thing. It was just like this is my hometown, this is where I'm from. And like they've done a lot of like fundraising and like awareness and like their characters though within the like campaigns. They have 3 campaigns running. I can speak. There've been like a lot of openly queer characters within that. And like it's really awesome to see from them and like these bigger creators because like Marisha Ray, who's Matt's wife, who's also one of the players in the Critical Role, just recently did Creator Clash not too long ago. And like just watching these creators who are like real people kind of be more than just these icons on a screen and be people is really awesome to get to see.
That's awesome. Yeah, I did not know that about Matt. He's from Florida. Wow. Yeah. That's awesome to hear. Anybody for you, Maddie? Like anybody you look up to? Or just...
I mean, no, it's just kind of always feeling safe in places where it doesn't come up, you know what I mean? But there's never been anyone specifically who kind of helped me on my journey. It was just me realizing that I need to stop caring what other people think and just be who I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. You know, when you were saying about making a safe place, you know, being comfortable with yourself, what advice would you give to someone who has yet to come out or they don't feel safe enough to come out?
Those are 2 very different things, I feel like. But if you feel like it is a safe place, I think, you know, coming out, for me at least, was just realizing that I need to really stop caring what other people think. And I need to wake up in the morning and be as true to myself as possible. And so that would be my advice, is like, if you, like, I, for one, actually haven't fully told my father, but I feel safe now where it's fine if he knows. And I'm pretty sure, like, he probably knows. It's been a while. But like, it's kind of just like, I don't even know, like, just be who you want to be. And if that's something that people aren't going to agree with, those are people that probably shouldn't be in your life to begin with. Like, you need to surround yourself with people that are going to support you. And if it's a safety issue, like, you can always reach out to communities like us, like oSTEM, who know resources that can get you to safe places. But, you know, always stand up for yourself, regardless of what people are going to think.
Yeah, personally, I feel, you know, with anyone who hasn't felt safe enough, or, you know, people who haven't come out yet, like me, for example, the way I see it, just as I get older, you know, as I figure out like my journey, I'm still really young. I just turned 21 recently, and I have like a lot left to go. And so one thing I want to prioritize myself is definitely happiness. And the more I figure more about myself, I feel the more happy I become. And because I only have one life, you know, I might as well make the most of it. So like we said before, you know, I want to make the most of it, people that matter to me. And, you know, what you said, when making peace, people finding a safe place to, you know, to share how you feel about yourself. You want to have it with these people who mean a lot to you and stuff like that. So one piece of advice I would say, you know, if you do plan on telling someone, I would say definitely find like the right people, like you said, find a safe place to do it. If not, I really it sucks that, you know, we're in a time today where, like, in a lot of family members are not as of accepting. I'm very fortunate to have my family, you know, my sister, they were like really accepting of her. I was a little bit nervous for her because I knew before, but they were really accepting. So hopefully, you know, after this, I'll give them a call and be like, hey, Mom and Dad, I got something to tell you, you know.
That's awesome.
But I would just say go for it. You know, you only have one life. It's kind of just like ripping a Band-Aid off. I know it's a hard Band-Aid to pull off. You really can't, like, you know, it's not like ripping a Band-Aid off of, like, you know, telling someone I'm going to break up with you or something like that. It's a totally different thing. But as long as, like, you know, if you see like the end goal, like, you know, I want to truly like achieve happiness, definitely like find a safe place and, you know, do it there.
That kind of reminds me too, like, I struggled for a long time wanting to tell my father, because it just felt like, how do I even bring this up? You know, like, if I was straight, I didn't have to go to my dad and go, hey, Dad, I'm straight. And then he's like, oh, you know, all shocked and stuff. It's like, I never found that, like, my mother was asking, you know, and so it came up in conversation. If she wanted to know, okay, I'll tell her. But, like, my father, he doesn't care what my sexuality is. So, like, I never felt this need to come out, per se, to my father. But that doesn't make me any less queer. You know what I mean? I don't have to have some giant coming out story to be who I am. You know, if I need to come out to feel more validated, then I'll do that. But I don't think coming out makes me any less or any more of who I am, because I am who I am.
Exactly.
And if my father will find out one way or another, but I've never felt this need to sit him down and go, okay, this is what I am. Because I feel like he loves me as a whole individual. You know what I mean? Regardless of my sexuality, he loves me as his daughter.
And I think you should just send him this stream and be like, hey, here you go.
Hey, Dad.
Just like, hey.
It's funny, like right after like at the first 5 minutes, like I keep checking my phone because my mom is calling me. So I'm like, did she find this stream? You know, like, yeah, like, did she find this stream? I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think one of the biggest things that I have had to come to terms with is you don't owe anyone anything. That is like one of the largest things that I have just come to terms with. Because my thing is, for me, when it was coming out the first time to my parents as trans, I was terrified. I had like several friends that I'd already talked to. I'd talked to their parents. Like, I had places I could go if I got kicked out, and like all of this. And like, this was back in 2015-ish, like around then. So it wasn't like it was as big of a thing. Like, I feel like within the past couple years, the community has gotten a lot more representation and a lot more acceptance. And like, even with everything that we're facing currently, like, it is not a great time at all to be part of the community, unfortunately. But like compared to back then, like I feel like there's been much more representation that I've seen that I've been like, okay, because for me it was a very taboo thing. Like I was the only person, at least that I was aware of, in my entire grade that was trans. So like going through high school like as the only person that like came out, because my thing is the kids I was going to high school with, I had been going to school with since kindergarten.
See, that's what I feel.
And so I was like, I cut my hair and started going by a different name, and some people were like, what's going on? And like I had one person that was like, oh, I'm still gonna call you dead name because that's how I know you. And like a lot of that, and like that hurt me a lot, especially when I was younger. But as I like have gotten older and like gotten more comfortable with myself, I've just realized I don't owe anyone anything. Like I am who I am, and that's what matters. Like if someone can't respect that, that's on them. And like I more often than not don't tell people. Like if someone asks my pronouns, I'll answer. But I'm like, I just am like, hi, I'm Sam. It's a pleasure to meet you. Like when I started at my new job, like for me, it's like a kind of a little bit of a terrifying thing starting at a new job, because I'm like, do I have to tell them I'm trans? Do I have to tell them I'm queer? And like in a lot of states, like one thing that I've learned is being polyamorous isn't protected. Like your boss can fire you for being polyamorous just because they don't believe it. Like they don't believe in it. And so like we still have a long way to go, but if it is somewhere safe, just having the people that care about you and like the people you feel you can tell. Like my mom, I like set a date to tell her, went out to lunch with her, and like had this whole like thing that I was gonna say planned to tell her. And then I sent her a text because I couldn't speak. Meanwhile, my dad, we were literally driving to Joann's at like 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, yeah, I wish I was born with an XY chromosome instead. And he was like, yeah, I figured. And I was like, cool. Because he was the one who started taking me to like conventions and everything. And cons was where I first started going by Sam. And so he knew, but like wasn't going to be like, oh, here's this thing. But meanwhile, with my mom, it was harder, like, because I'd have like times we'd be at like out at the store in this place before I came out, and like I'd like want to get a deodorant that was like either more neutral or more masculine, and she's like, that's a guy's deodorant, you don't need that one. And I'm just sitting there like, oh boy. And so
we're gatekeeping smells now.
Yeah, apparently. But like,
You mean I can't smell like teak wood? What do you mean
yeah,
that?
no, I'm like,
I have to smell like roses?
I don't want to smell like roses and lilies. Like, I want to smell like campfire. Come on.
Right?
I want to smell like the basket.
And like, it's just like having things like that, and like coming to terms with myself, and then realizing I don't owe anyone anything. Because like my thing is, I still haven't told my mom I use he, they pronouns. Because I introduced her to a friend once that used she, they pronouns, and she's like, well, why is it both? Like, that's so hard to remember. And I'm like, it's literally you have a 66.6% chance of using the right pronouns. And like, so it's like sometimes having to like spread that awareness. And one thing for me is with my like family, extended family especially, I've been very open with answering questions. Like, and here's my thing. No one is required to answer any questions about themselves, their experience, their identity, or whatever. Like, if someone asks you a question you don't want to answer, don't answer it. You don't owe them anything. But I have been very open in the educating people, like in the like going through top surgery process, like starting testosterone, like getting my name changed, stuff like that. Because with all of the erasure that is occurring, or just in the past, like when I was younger and not seeing any resources, seeing any representation, wanting to educate to help erase the fear and the discrimination that happens. Because what I've observed is that the less education there is, the more there is just a fear of the unknown that creates a hate. And so for me, it's a big thing in educating and just like spreading that awareness and like this is literally nothing that you think it is kind of way.
Mm-hmm. I noticed like, we're all talking about like, you both are talking about, when it's much different telling your mom than telling your dad. I think we just all have like dads are just like, okay. Like, I don't know, for some reason like dads, it was the same thing with like my sister too. And I guess like my dad would, when he finds it out, I feel like my dad would just be like, oh, that's cool. I love you, son. You want to play FIFA? Or something like that,
Yeah.
My mom, she would just kind of like, she'd be a little more accepting.
Yeah, my dad, I know if I told him, he'd literally be like, okay, what do I do with this? Like, he just wouldn't.
What do I do with this information?
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
like, I was scared to tell both my parents. My dad was raised Roman Catholic.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, I was like, oh, God, he's going to hate me and disown me. And, like, at the time, I had a closer relationship with my dad than I did my mom, just because, like, my mom and I butted heads a lot when I was younger. And so I was terrified, and I was just like, with how he is as a person, though, I was like, I'm just gonna rip the Band-Aid off. And like right away, like I told him, and he was like, okay, yeah, I figured. And then he works in insurance, so he was like, so what do we need to do to get started for you to like start all this stuff? And I was like,
oh, he's such a real one.
Thank
So
you.
real.
So it's like, it's always going to be a different experience. No one is going to have the same experience, but just knowing that you are who you are, and if you want to tell people, go ahead and do it. But if you don't, you also don't owe anyone anything. That's like the biggest thing I can get away with, because I've had people like ask me previously, like, hey, how do I come out to my family? And I'm like, first off, you don't have to. But if you want to and you feel like you need to, just do it when it feels right. Like that's a big thing. Do it when it feels right.
I grew up in a very I grew up in a Puerto Rican household, and like prior to my parents were a little more aware of like today's culture and society, but my grandparents, they're first generation from Puerto Rico, from the island, so they don't know a lot about the community and stuff like that. So if I were to tell them, they would just be like, "Gay?" They would not have any idea of like what's going on, and they're very traditional when it comes to like, and a lot of like at least a lot of my friends who are also Hispanic, who are also part of the community, they come from a lot of Hispanic households are very family oriented and traditional. So anything that comes out of place, it's like, you're not part of our family anymore, So it's like, that's how I always felt like
that's intense.
during like high school and college. I'm like, oh, my abuela, how would she feel about it? My mom and dad are different because they grew up, in an era where it's like, it was very, what's the word?
Traditional?
Not traditional, but they're a little more cultured. They're cultured they're educated on the on like the community stuff. Like my mom's a professor, so all her students, a lot of her students are like part of the community and stuff like that. So but she finds, the students find comfort in coming to her because like, my mom wants to be like the role model and stuff like that. But like my grandparents, again, they're not familiar with like America or just like what's going on in America. They're just concerned about, their farms and stuff like that. So seeing, a traditional, like not seeing like a man and woman, like a heterosexual relationship is like very like new to them, and they feel some sort of like fear in that because they're like, oh, what happened to keeping the family name and stuff like that, because they want to like, keep generations on and on and on and on and stuff like that.
I struggled with that a long time. My mom's a midwife, so she like helps delivers babies, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, Mama, I don't think I'm giving you a baby. And she struggled with it at first, but now she always jokes with me. She's like, oh, I know I'm not getting grandkids. And I'm like,
yeah, that's the thing with my mom. Like whenever my mom and dad are always like having conversations with me, they're like, oh, one day you're going to tell your kids? I'm like, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
I've had that running joke with my mom. I'm like, yeah, you'll have grandkids. They're just going to be animals. Like, I'm like, I'll have fur babies, but not real kids. And like, I have 2 little sisters. So like, my mom's still like holding out hope for grandkids from them. But like, I've always been upfront with her. Like, yeah, no, that's not something that's happening. And like, it's always interesting, and like what you were saying with your grandparents though is like that's where I like to be like, I feel like education and just knowing is such a big deal it helps negate that fear or that like what's going on, because like there's so many options for like queer couples like who don't want to have kids or like who don't want to like give birth to kids or can't but still want kids. Like there's so many options, and so it's like the families can still continue. There can still be families, and they don't have to be just what we see as a traditional family.
Exactly. Like, my mom says like, oh, your kids one day. I'm like, if you want grandkids, they'll be adopted into a loving home, you know, instead of like.
Yeah.
But is there any other topics that anybody would like to talk about? I personally have had like definitely like a welcoming experience, and not, I'm very. I feel like I kind of like butchered this panel, but
no. I was gonna say you've been doing really well.
I really want to be a little more educated on this, finding out who I truly am and stuff like that. So I would definitely be looking to you guys into, feeling more accepting for myself as a person, and definitely to like my family and stuff like that, because I do want to educate more people. I've always feel like I've always been in like the background.
I've always considered myself an ally. Like first always ally, but like as I get older, I'm like, maybe I really want to start educating people stuff like this, and have more people feel comfortable in their skin, like I feel like right now. So I feel like
I just want to become a better person and better person for everybody else, because everybody's human, and at the end of the day, we're all here just for one life, so make the most out of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess those are my closing remarks. I don't know if you have any closing remarks, Sam.
I was gonna say, if you're interested in joining oSTEM,
Join
do
us.
it. We'd love to have you join. But yeah, no, literally, it's just the making people feel welcomed and like just comfortable as themselves in whatever they identify, or even if they don't know how they identify yet. Like, it is valid to not know. Like, the amount of times I switched labels, like, that's just like, you are you. Whether you put a label on it or not is completely up to you. And that's like, just hearing you though say like that you were able to become like more comfortable even throughout this panel, like that's awesome. That's really awesome to hear, and like really glad to hear that. And like also you did a great job running this, I will say.
Absolutely.
The transitions like between the different questions, on
Could not have
point.
done that.
On point. So very good job. Very, very happy.
Closing remarks. Great job. Thanks for having us.
Yes,
Thanks for literally.
yes.
Thanks for
Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
Thank you for having
Yeah.
us.
Me too, like about issues like even with like the members or like the polyamory thing, I always genuinely like, what? That's insane.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but yeah, thanks for giving us this outlet to really, share our club and what we do.
Yeah. Just have a good conversation.
Thanks for watching. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Be gay. Be very gay this month.
Be gay, do crimes. But
Do crime.
do crimes.
Period. And play video games.
And play video games. Yeah, literally. That's awesome. Don't forget
Okay.
to like and subscribe.
Smash that like button.
Smash that
Follow me
like
Twitch.tv/Cassandra Kowareta. We're trying to get a partner.
Smash that like
I'm
button.
streaming tonight. I'm streaming Fortnite tonight.
Don't forget to turn on notifications so you can know when the next video comes out.
Yeah, ring that bell.
If I get 100 subs, I will cosplay in a maid outfit.
Do it. Get this man 100 subs.